What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be doing my second video predicting a Big 12 schedule. And today we are predicting the 2025 schedule for Texas Tech. I'm going to go through every single game on their 2025 schedule and predict their record. Before we get into predicting their schedule, let's just talk about this team. And I really want to talk about this football team and go over their schedule because there is a lot of buzz around this Texas Tech program. And I think there's a lot of reason for optimism next season, and I think they are definitely a Big 12 title contender. Joey McGuire is new to being a head coach, but in just 3 seasons at Texas Tech, he has went 23-16, and they are recruiting very good, and their recruiting has been a lot better with Joey McGuire. I really think Texas Tech is an underrated football program. From 2016 to 2020, they did not have one winning season. They've been a pretty mediocre program in recent memory. But Joey McGuire is on the rise as a head coach, and he's underrated in my opinion. He's led this team to some good seasons and winning seasons. Last season, they had a top offense in the Big 12. They won 8 games. Unfortunately, the defense was very bad, though. But after multiple top 3 recruiting classes in the Big 12 and the #1 transfer portal class this offseason, I think this team has potential to break through next season because they really went all out this offseason. I don't know if they have the #1 class. They're right there with LSU, either #1 or #2. But regardless, you get the point. And I think the defensive line alone gives them a shot at winning the Big 12 next season. They really revamped that defensive line, and it's looking very good. I don't think there's a lot of teams in the Big 12 with a good defensive line, but Texas Tech might just have a top 10 defensive line in the country if they put it together. They added multiple 4-stars and proven seniors. David Bailey, Lee Hunter, Skyler Howard-Gill, and Romello Hyatt. They also added a couple of interesting additions in the secondary, most notably Bryce Pollock. And they got their veteran defensive leader back in Ben Roberts at middle linebacker. And they returned 76% of the production on defense, which is 5th in the nation. We'll see how the secondary shapes up, but I am fully confident in the front 7. I think they're going to have one of the most improved defenses in the nation. There's just too many big names joining that defense. Offensively, they lost an elite back in Taj Brooks, but Quentin Joyner is a huge young pickup at running back. He was a really good replacement. They got Byron Morton back at quarterback, the senior. They got their top receivers in Caleb Douglas and Coy Eakin back from last season. And they got a very good receiver from the group of 5 in Reggie Virgil. And they also managed to bring back the young 5-star wide receiver in Micah Hudson, a guy that could definitely break out next season. So they could really be 4 deep at wide receiver, maybe even deeper than that. I think they're going to be really good at the line of scrimmage, and I also think they have the playmakers. This is absolutely a team that could win the Big 12. But without further ado, let's get into predicting their schedule. Texas Tech will open the season with Arkansas Pine Bluff at home. Last season, they actually beat an FCS team in overtime, but next season, I expect a different story. Arkansas Pine Bluff is a very bad FCS team. They got shut out by Arkansas last season, 70-0, and they went 3-9. And I think Texas Tech's going to be on a different level next season, and they return most of their top playmakers from last season. They will get this win in week 1, no problem, and move to 1-0. And it will get even easier. They play Kent State in week 2. So they play probably the worst FBS team and one of the worst FCS teams in week 1 and 2. And this will be a great 2 games to get that momentum going for Texas Tech. I have nothing much to say about this game. Texas Tech should dominate it and move to 2-0. They will then get Oregon State at home in week 3. Maybe Oregon State shows up to play in this game on the road. Oregon State has Anthony Hackerson back at running back and their top wide receiver. And they also add one of the better quarterbacks from the portal in Malik Murphy. I think they're going to be better next season. Maybe they'll be the best team in the Pac-12, or should I say the Pac-2. I think they will be okay, but I think Texas Tech can get this win in week 3 at home. Maybe this could be a tricky one in a close game because Texas Tech doesn't have any competition the first couple of weeks. Maybe that catches up to them. But I trust Texas Tech in that line of scrimmage. I think they win it and move to 3-0. They will then have their first road game going to Utah. And this could be a test for that Texas Tech defense because Utah could have one of the best rushing attacks in the Big 12. with Devin Dampier at quarterback, a monstrous dual threat quarterback, and also Wayshawn Parker, who's extremely underrated in my opinion. He led Washington State in rushing last season. He had a good year for them, even though he didn't get utilized that much. But he will be utilized to his fullest in that Utah system. Utah has a good defense and a great offensive line as well. I think Texas Tech will be tested in this game. It will be a great matchup between the Utah offensive line and the Texas Tech defensive line. But I am going to take Texas Tech playmakers over Utah's. And I think Texas Tech is going to be better. I think they win it and move to 4-0. Texas Tech will then go on the road to play Houston off of a bye week. This could totally be a trap game. Houston is a team that should be very interesting. I think they have breakout potential. They did a very good job in the portal and they returned good production. I really like their head coach and Willie Fritz. He did a good job at Tulane and I think he could turn this team around. They definitely overperformed a bit last season and had a good defense. But I also have question marks with Houston because they did lose two of their top defensive players, probably their best two defensive players, and Jeremiah Wilson and AJ Halsey in the secondary. They still have some great seniors on defense, but there is some holes in the secondary, and they could struggle. But offensively, they will have a revamped offensive line with a bunch of seniors. They get Stephon Johnson back at receiver and add a couple of good receivers. And more importantly, they add five-star quarterback Connor Wigman and a good running back in Dean Connors. They also add two pretty solid tight ends out of the portal. They could have one of the better tight end rooms in the country. They got the tight end from Ball State who had just under 1,000 receiving yards as a tight end. That's very good. And they also got the four-star on Luke McGarry. Look, I think the pieces are there. This could be a team that has the Arizona State type of season. But how are all those pieces going to fit in? I really don't know if they have what it takes. And I don't think Connor Wigman is like that at quarterback. And like I said, they lost some very good pieces in the secondary. But I'm telling you, watch out for Houston because they have talent. But regardless, I will trust Texas Tech to win this game and move to 5-0. They will then play Kansas at home, and Kansas is a team I don't have great expectations for. They missed a bowl game last season, and it's going to be hard to bounce back from that. Kansas is known as a pretty bad football team in recent memory, and they lost a lot of their top talent from last season. They lost a deep receiving core, and they also lost Devin Neal at running back. On the bright side, they get Jalen Daniels back. Maybe he puts something together. But they will certainly have a revamped defense, and the secondary loses some massive pieces. I don't expect Kansas to bounce back in a big way. Maybe they make a bowl game. Lance Leipold proved himself as a good head coach, but he has lost some of that hype, and maybe he's not as good as we think he is. Regardless, Texas Tech has this game at home. I think they win it and move to 6-0. They will then have their third tough road game, and I do think it will catch up to them. I think they could get tested at Utah and Houston, but then they will play Arizona State. I think this will be a game of the 1 and 2 in the Big 12, and they will possibly play twice next season. These could be two playoff teams, and they both have very good rosters. They both got great head coaches and young players coming up. But honestly, I'm going to take Arizona State in this game. I trust Sam Leavitt at quarterback and the talent that they have returning. They've just proven more than Texas Tech. So I'm going to say Texas Tech drops this game on the road and moves to 6-1. I'm expecting a big step forward for Kyle Whittingham in Utah, but I don't really think the same for Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. It's going to be hard to bounce back from a season where they lost 9 straight and went 0-9 in conference play, and then they go on to lose a lot of talent to the NFL. They're going to have a new quarterback. I think they're not going to have great quarterback play. They lost Ollie Gordon at running back as well. They're going to have to rely on a bunch of transfer portal talent, and I don't think they can do it. There's just too many holes on this roster and too many questions. I think Texas Tech will win this game and move to 7-1. Texas Tech just doesn't catch a break with these road games. They will go on the road to play Kansas State. I expect this team to have one of the top rushing attacks in the country, with Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson both coming back. They also got their receiver in Jace Brown back and add some solid receivers in Jaron Tibbs and Jerron Bradley. But I don't see them having a very good number 2 receiver outside of Jace Brown. And I think there's questions on this defense. They struggled last season. And they really didn't make any big moves in the secondary. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be good again. Chris Kleiman is a great head coach. They are always a winning football team. But I think they won't be in the top tier of the Big 12 for another season. I think there's other teams in the Big 12 with more complete rosters. And there's still some things that Avery Johnson has to prove. And I'm going to take Texas Tech and their line of scrimmage play in this game. And like I said, I have questions with the Kansas State secondary, and Texas Tech should be able to sling the ball deep. I think they win it and move to 8-1. Texas Tech will then play BYU at home. Earlier in the offseason, BYU was actually my pick to win the Big 12. They had good return in production and Jake Retzlaff back at quarterback. They also have an easy schedule. But as the offseason went on, other teams were making big impacts, more importantly, Texas Tech. And BYU lost a couple of their good receivers, especially Killon Marion, and they lost a leader on defense in the linebacker room, and of course the allegations with Jake Retzlaff. And the more I thought about it, they had one good season. I don't know if they can carry that over. And I like Texas Tech next season to take a big step forward. They have this game at home. I think they win it and move to 9-1 and continue the momentum. And they will then get UCF at home. UCF didn't have a great season last season. They definitely underperformed, and then they lost Gus Malzahn. That was a tough loss. They got their former head coach in Scott Frost. They had that undefeated season nearly a decade ago, but it is a different college football today. And the last time we saw Scott Frost, he was not doing a great job and he got fired. UCF just does not have the roster, in my opinion, and I expect another struggling season for them. Give me Texas Tech to win this game big and move to 10-1. They will then play West Virginia on the road, and this is another team that has question marks. They went 6-6 last season, but they had a pretty easy schedule. They lost their head coach, and they will have a revamped roster and a new head coach. They will have a new quarterback, but they do get Jaheim White back at running back, and they have some okay playmakers. But defensively, I don't expect them to be that great. And I am just going to take Texas Tech to finish the season on a good note. They have it off a bye week. I'm taking Texas Tech to win this game and finish 11-1. So my prediction for Texas Tech in 2025 is 11-1. I think they are going to be one of the surprise teams of next season and have a massive breakthrough. And I really have high expectations for them because of the defensive line. If it wasn't for the defensive line, they would probably only win 8 or 9 games. But I think the defensive line is going to make a massive difference, especially in the Big 12. And I think they will be in the Big 12 title game. But you guys let me know your prediction for Texas Tech down in the comments below. Now let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content. And we basically cover everything on this channel, so definitely consider subscribing. And also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.